All right, Pillsy, wrapping our exit interviews up today with Claude Giroux. G-Money. At 36 years old, this guy just continues to amaze. Sure, the end of the season wasn't great, but he played all 82 games, finishing with 64 points. And look, to me, what Claude Giroux brings extends well beyond what happens on the ice. What he does for the leadership group, you hear Brady just lauding the experience and what he's able to do to calm everybody down. Now, some people are probably saying, well, how'd it work out on the ice? Well, I tell you that 164 out of 164 games in the 2 years since signing is extremely impressive. It speaks to his off-ice habits. It speaks to his training. Just ask Tony Greco. Go check out that interview from last summer. This guy lives, breathes, sleeps hockey, and you can tell he's nowhere near done. I want him to take the Joe Pavelski curve where, look, 1-2 year deals beyond. He's going into the final year of that 3-year contract right now. I'm sure he expected the Senators to be further along. How would you dive into the season that was with Claude Giroux?
Yeah, I think it's important to state that along with most of the rest of the team, especially his line mates, the end of the season was tough for Claude Giroux. But again, I'm not going to nail that on Claude. The whole team as a group were collectively bad. To play 82 games is massive, 64 points, still contributing. But Ross, I think the one thing we need to highlight the most for Claude Giroux, especially on a team with limited veterans, especially on a team that's very young down the middle, the face-off percentages. I mean, this guy took 1,152 face-offs this season. Josh Norris actually was second with 629. So like nearly half the amount of face-offs that Claude Giroux took. And Ross, it's not just quantity, it's quality. He won 58% of those draws. But what I'm going to circle even more, I'm circling it on my computer as if you guys can see it, but his power play face-off win percentage. 64.6% on the power play. So that's just another thing, and I talked about it with Travis Green and the assistant coaches, is if Claude Giroux's out there, you're winning that face-off 65% of the time, and you have possession right there. And then you've got all these offensive players that can light it up or should be able to light it up on the power play. There's no excuses for the Ottawa Senators power play not to be in the top 15 or even top 10. Like, they have the talent. You get a guy that can win the draw for you, so you immediately have puck possession. And that's where Claude Giroux is so important to this team, because they struggle in face-off percentages in all other areas. Like Josh Norris was above 50, which is good. Tim Stützle, 46.7. You got to find a way to improve that. Ridley Gregg at 43.9. And then you have Pinto at 50.6 and Brady at 50.2. So they got some guys that can do it, but overall, no one does it with the success that Claude Giroux does.
I'm excited to see what he continues to bring, because look, we had the moments of Claude Giroux this year. You think of the slap shot against Columbus in the shootout. He is just, he's a gamer, man. He reminds me a lot of Daniel Alfredson, the way he plays, the way he forechecks, the way he makes these little spin up moves when he crosses the blue line. And it's like, okay, I'm looking, I've got the vision. I need to be able to do it. One thing about Claude, I'd like to see him maybe kind of take some of the guys, and he is doing it on the bench, especially with Timmy, but to just make sure that these guys aren't getting too frustrated with themselves earlier on in the year. Because, you know, you mentioned it, Claude went through this earlier on in his career where he was the guy who kind of needed to be, you know, pulled back, and you'd rather pull someone back than have to push them, because these guys are driven and they want to be great. I just think that, look, Brady, especially in November when he was trying to fight everybody, and like, it wasn't good. And I just want Giroux to sit these guys down before the season and be like, look, we're going to lose games this year. We're going to. It happens to everybody, but what are you going to do to be a positive influence so that these 2-game losing streaks don't turn into 5, where you go out west and come back with 0 points on a 5-game trip? That's where his leadership is going to become paramount, is how is he going to be the guy on the ice? I'm still expecting above 60 points next year. It's just a matter of what's the intangible like going to be. I'd like to see him get back to being a plus player. A lot of those minuses he ate was in March and April, where I believe he was minus 11 in those 2 months. So what is he going to do? But still, positive impact player at 5-on-5. That 51.6 expected goals percentage is solid. It's, I think, fourth or fifth on the team behind Pinto, Brady, and one other. I've actually got it pulled up here. Let's find out here. It's Pinto, Brady, and then Claude Giroux among forwards. Sanderson, Zub, Shabbat, Brandstrom, all in there as well. But you know what? I'd like to see him. You mentioned Tim Stützle when we were doing Stützle's exit interview. I'd like to see him back with Ridley Gregg at some point next season.
Yes.
Because I think that was really fun to watch as Ridley was a rookie. And Ridley, I'm expecting to hit the ground running into next season. I think Giroux would be the perfect complement. And then you're taking a little bit of pressure off of Giroux to not have to play 20 minutes a night anymore. I think that would be a really, if they're able to get it to Foley, get a guy in the top 6 to play with Timmy, then maybe you move Giroux and have him. And that way you need a top 9 in the NHL these days. You can't have a top 6. So that could be a move that I think would help both Giroux extend his consistency and help take Ridley Gregg to the next level.
Ross, I hate to bring it to this point, but I think it's a discussion worth having. Are you nervous if this season goes poorly again that Claude Giroux might say, okay, it was fun coming to Ottawa. I made my wife happy for a couple years. We get to have the kids here, but this is a guy with a lot of pride and without a Stanley Cup. Do you think he goes ring chasing if this season goes poorly again in Ottawa?
What I will say, because I don't know the answer, and what I'll say is I wouldn't blame him if he does. I wouldn't hold it against him if he does. Heck, if I probably wouldn't have held it against him if he said that this year and said, give me 2 chases at a ring. But he seems loyal. He seems like a guy that, you know what? I'd love him to be a Senator until the day he retires. And he would obviously, and this is fantasy world, but if the Sens won the Cup, there's no doubt that he would be the first guy to get it from Brady afterwards. So this is a guy who every team would love to have on theirs. Ottawa has him. Let us know your thoughts on the season that was for Claude Giroux and what your expectations are for him next season.